right into your rankings with your edge rushers in the class. Headley, Drew, who just missed the list?
Tuli Tuapolodu. Did I get that right?
You got it.
Yeah.
KJ Henry.
Mm-hmm.
KJ Henry from Clemson. Oh, Tuli from USC, of course. KJ Henry from Clemson, and he's making his way into my top 5 pretty soon, man. We're gonna see him at the Senior Bowl. I think he's gonna show out there. Nolan Smith from Georgia got the injury, but before the injury, the physical presence that he plays with, play after play. Andre Carter from Army, the edge rusher, can bend the edge, can get to the quarterback, and Braylon Trice from Washington. He's a power edge, very disruptive in the run and the pass game.
All right, those are the handful of players there that are talented. Headley likes him, but just didn't quite make his top 5. What about you, Drew? I'm sure there's some duplicates there.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
Yeah. Nolan Smith and Braylon Trice. Headley spoke about those two guys. Also have Derek Hall from Auburn, who plays kind of an outside linebacker edge, and he's kind of the moving piece within that defense. And then you have Isaiah Falsky from Notre Dame,
right?
Who's getting some love right now, as far as I can see on Twitter. And that was it.
All right. So let's jump into your respective top 5 here. And coming in fifth, Drew, you have Tyree Wilson from Texas Tech, a player that we've discussed quite a bit. We actually have been discussing him throughout the season. I know it's starting to pick up some steam as far as his draft prospects, and it's looking like he might be a top 10, top 15 overall pick, considering some of the traits and his performance this season. But you have him fifth, and Headley, you have Miles Murphy of Clemson coming in fifth. And I'll start with you, Drew. Why Wilson a little bit lower than I think some might think, considering where his draft stock might be?
Because I think when I talk about the next 4 guys, I think he's the rawest. He's actually rawer, I think, than Derek Hall and Isaiah Falsky and the guys that just fell out. But that ceiling, bro, I can't, that potential ceiling that he has, I can't let it go, man. When I watch the tape, man, the burst that he has off of the edge, the power that he plays with, it's just that, hey, man, can I refine this? Can I get him to get his head on right and have a plan every play, use his hands more often, and be able to defend the run a little bit better, not too bad, but he's so raw, man. I can't let it go. I can't let it go with the what do we call them, the physical traits that he has.
Right. He finds his way into your top 5 because when you think about it from a traits perspective, and that's ultimately what the NFL scouts are going to prioritize, right? That isn't to say that there isn't good film. That isn't to say that, but you said that he is a little rough around the edges. There's some more refining that needs to happen there. But as far as the traits, the things that you cannot teach, he has those in spades. So you got to find him, got to make way for him in your top 5. Headley, Miles Murphy out of Clemson.
Yeah, Miles Murphy's a guy. I admit, last season I watched the tape. I liked him, but I didn't really love him. He gave me some Cleveland Farrell vibes, and I'm like, long edge rush from Clemson. But the more and more I watch him, he's growing on me. It's just the consistency. Brise is in and out of the lineup. KJ Henry, he'll flash, but play after play, Miles Murphy, he wreaks a lot of havoc. Gave Matt Bergeron problems over there at Syracuse. And he's not the flashiest, but at the end of the day, he defends the run. He is where he's going to supposed to be. Double-digit tackles for losses, backed up in 3 straight seasons. Big, long, and physical. I like him here at number 5.
When you mentioned Cleveland Farrell, and of course that's the notion of kind of scouting the helmet, and then you see some similarities in terms of their body type and so on and so forth. I think as talented as this defensive line is, the one Farrell played was very talented as well, right? Arguably more talented. And with that being said, perhaps simply more talented. That being said, I think the detractors, the people that weren't as high on Cleveland Farrell, felt that he benefited from the guys around him. Where I think in the case of Miles Murphy, he probably is doing more from an individual standpoint than Farrell did. So understandable how you might have some hesitation there. But Miles Murphy comes in 5th in Headley's top 5. 4th, we have Tui Pelotu from USC. Drew has him ranked fourth among his top 5 edge rushers in the 2023 draft class, to this point. And then Headley, you have Tyree Wilson, the aforementioned Tyree Wilson, coming in at 4. Headley, I'll start with you. Drew talked about Wilson. He talked about what's to like, what there's not to like. How do you feel about him?
Yeah, y'all nailed it. It's a trace in the tools. The physical 6'6", 275. We talk about him every week. The measurements, man, how big he is, how he's so disruptive. I think, he is raw, like Drew said, but the ceiling is so high. And I think even the floor, it could be a disruptive 5 technique, get 4, 5, 6 sacks a season, like how those Steelers defensive linemen do year after year. So I feel like his floor.
Cam Hayward's of the world.
Cam Hayward's, disruptive, physical, not won't get the double-digit sacks, but is going to be also making plays every play, getting guys around him to the football. So I got Tyree Wilson, number 4.
And Drew, you were Thule at USC. A lot of folks don't get to see him, may not necessarily be familiar with him because he's on the West Coast, but really impressive player.
I mean, it's hard to watch. Not that anybody's watching the USC defense because them boys, they got a lot of issues, but he stands out immediately. Extremely disruptive. The thing that I love about him the most when I watch him, man, is he makes it very, very difficult for offensive linemen, tackles, guard, whoever he's going against, to actually get a good hand on him, man. A solid hand where they can feel relaxed. Okay, I got this guy. Like he makes himself small, slight. Let me get a thesaurus and just run down the word small and just see every word because he makes it very, very difficult, whether he's the way he moves or his hand usage. I think he defends the run pretty well, but I think that one of the things why he's so high too is he's just consistent, man. He's consistently consistent. I think if he wasn't playing at USC, ACC, anywhere else but the Pac-12, or maybe just at USC, I think he's getting more love, man. I think he's getting. Sure. If this dude was playing in the SEC, bro, he would be up. We'd be talking about him up there with Will Anderson, to be honest with you.
What you were describing in terms of how difficult it is for offensive linemen to get their hands on him. He's just such a difficult target to get locked in on, right? You kind of explained it or described it as getting small. And in certain instances, he does make himself small in order to get penetration or what have you, but he's twitched up. You know what I mean? And it's just very difficult to get a hand and get locked in terms of dealing with a target like that. So really, really good player. I know, again, he's on the West Coast, a lot of Pac-12 after dark games. We may not necessarily get to see him as often as some of these other names, but he should hear his name fairly early in the 2023 NFL draft. Moving right along with the 3rd ranked edge rusher for Headley and Drew, we have Jared Verse from Florida State, the transfer from Albany. Terrific edge rusher, had a great season. It looks like he's going to parlay that into a fairly early exit from the green room, perhaps. We'll see how it all turns out. But Drew, what do you like about Jared Verse?
I got it right here in my notes, bro. Beats people with a fluid motion, and it always looks like one motion, and I got it. It's over. Yeah. And he does it with a lot of consistency, man. Like, sometimes you'll see it here, but he does it over and over and over, and he'll do it both in the run and the pass game, and he can defend the run very, very well, man. So, I think he has a very, very high ceiling.
Like a ball of fire that's coming off the edge over and over. Like you said, man, it's very hard to contain. I think he's feared. I'm gonna kind of compare it to like a receiver. Like, how Josh Downs is. You don't know what he's gonna do. Is he going left? Is he going right? I think that's the same thing with Jared Verse with these offensive tackles. It's like they're not sure what move he's gonna put on him, and we don't know where he's gonna go. But oftentimes he ends up in the backfield at the quarterback or the running back. So, like Drew said, he does the run and the pass very well.
We've talked about it previously as far as Verse is concerned, kind of following the same track as Jermaine Johnson. Now, of course, Jermaine Johnson was coming from Georgia, Verse coming from Albany. However, they go to FSU and they play exceptionally well, right? They make huge strides. And then, of course, Jermaine Johnson punctuates his swan song with FSU at the Senior Bowl. From a draft perspective, Which prospect do you like more, Headley? Do you think versus clearing away the better prospect, is Jermaine Johnson a better player in certain areas? What's your thought process when you compare those two?
Yeah, I think Jermaine Johnson is probably better against the run. It's just a bigger, more physical guy. And I like Jerry Verse better against the pass. I'm not saying that vice versa, Verse can't guard the run or Johnson can't get after the quarterback, but it's just the skill set that they possess and the size that, the difference in size why I think Jermaine Johnson holds up better against the run.
All right. At number 2, you both have B.J. Ojulari of LSU. Excellent pass rusher. I think Ojulari doesn't get enough credit for what he does other than being a pass rusher. Headley, what do you like so much about Ojulari?
He's just getting better. He hasn't reached his peak. We're going to talk about another guy who we have that may have peaked, but Ojulari continues week after week to get better. It's just something with a guy that could dip and bend the edge. It's just so beautiful to watch. It's like not everyone has that characteristic, and he does it time after time. And he's not just a pass rusher because, he gets to the opposite hash in the run game and can chase down guys. It kind of reminds me like how Von Miller does it, where, okay, if you run away from him, it's probably not a good idea because he's going to chase you down backside. Yep. So the biggest question with Ojulari to me now is strength. When teams run at him, can he defend the run? If he masters that, he's going to be Pro Bowler, next level. He's going to be a beast at the next level.
Yeah, I would agree with everything you just said. What he does in the run game a lot of the times is he'll put a shoulder into a guy, not necessarily use his hands. And I don't know if that's going to work at the next level consistently. I mean, it's working for him in college. You know what I'm saying? He'll make plays. He'll crash down. He'll cause disruption doing that, making guys kind of go back inside. He's doing his job. But in the league, I don't know if they see that enough. They're going to say, okay, we're gonna know how to deal with this, and that's not going to work, right? And also you're talking about growing man strength. So, yeah, I mean, you hit everything on the head, man. I think he might be the best pure pass rusher coming out, in this draft. But yeah, man, and you can drop this dude back in the coverage. You can get cute. Because he can move. You know what I mean? Not that I would be doing it on a consistent basis, but if you want to get cute here, there, you want to confuse the quarterback a little bit, you can do that with him, man. He's not just a guy that can come off the edge consistently, man.
Given all his ability and talent, and of course he has the flexibility to bend the edge, he can convert speed to power. What really jumps out to me is kind of the dogged mentality, the fact that he has a high motor on top of it all. So you got players who may overachieve because of the all-out effort that they give. When you have a guy who demonstrates that consistent effort, that high motor on top of the talent that he possesses, you have the potential of a very special player. So I really like B.J. Ojulari quite a bit. And with the number 1 first-ranked prospect for Headley and Drew, respectively, we have Will Anderson from Alabama. No big surprise here. We've talked about it ad nauseum. Will Anderson, he really didn't have a whole lot of room to improve his draft stock, but I think he certainly has cemented it. And that's not always an easy thing to do. We saw Kayvon Thibodeau a season ago who was playing really well for the Giants. I think Thibodeau has always been an excellent prospect, but you notice that there was kind of a, okay, so he's been that guy for so long. He's been kind of the main focal point for so long. You get a little fatigue, right? You get a little draft stock fatigue when that occurs. And to some degree that happened to Will Anderson, but I think he's done a better job of staving that away. It's just a guy by the name of Jalen Carter that just, is continuing to push, obviously. And of course, we got a better quarterback class. We're anticipating a better quarterback class, at least at the top in the 2023 draft. So that may change things a bit. But you both have Will Anderson at the top here. And Drew, why Will Anderson number 1 overall for you?
Well, one of the things that Headley said earlier in terms of what B.J. Ojulari can do in terms of running things down on the backside, Will Anderson can do that as well. I can't tell you how many times I've watched teams not block him thinking he's not going to make the play, and he makes the play. It's like it's nonsense, man. He has something called tackle range. Sometimes I'd be like, bro, how did he make that play, bro? He's just able to kind of extend and be able to grab whoever it is, quarterback, running back, receiver, whoever it is, to make a play. High effort player, smart. He was used in a way where he didn't necessarily have to rush the passer every time, but I don't know. It's kind of hard because like you said earlier, he had nowhere to go but down, man. He would have had to have had 45 sacks. You know what I'm saying? Made every play.
A Heisman Trophy campaign.
All of this, bro. Going to the playoff for him to people to kind of not lay, people to say, hey, he is the guy, man. So, he's been the guy last year. He's the guy this year.
His stock really had nowhere to go but down. I mean, he was often considered the top prospect in the 2022 class had he been draft eligible. You know what I mean? So I think it's impressive. I think it's impressive that he's managed to kind of stave it off. And people have tried. The big question mark that I have is whether or not Will Anderson is tapped out. Is this the best? Right? And that happens with some Alabama players. They do a great job of developing players, but oftentimes, I shouldn't say oftentimes, but it happens. It happens relatively, frequently where an Alabama prospect has kind of maxed out their potential when they're entering the league. So that doesn't mean they're not a good player. They're a good player, but there's not another gear, another level to necessarily get to. And that in of itself could cause someone to depress his value. I think, again, based on what I saw this year, considering the fact that, when teams did decide to block him, they typically had a plan for him, and he still was able to affect the game, even though he may not necessarily have had as eye-opening counting numbers. They were solid, don't get me wrong, but wasn't quite as good as the 2021 campaign from a statistical standpoint, but his impact week in and week out, it remained intact. Headley, why do you have Will Anderson first among your edge rushers?
It's a presence. It's a presence on run plays, pass plays. He just physical, gets to the ball, uses his hands well. He's just physical, man. It's just presence, man. It's like even when he's not in the play or just lining up, it's like you got to have a hat on him, 2 hats on him probably. So it's just the mentality that he plays with. A lot of dog too.
All right. That's going to do it for our preliminary edge rankings for the 2023 NFL Draft. Headley and Drews, respectively. Again, Will Anderson being the top prospect among those edge rushers.